You already know how to sound intelligent. You stack terms. You quote sources. You add detail until the room nods, because most people cannot tell the difference between depth and density. But let me ask you a harder question. When you explain the thing that actually matters in your life right now, your next move, your values, your plan, could you say it in 3 clean sentences without hiding? If your throat tightens, that is not an accident. That is the feeling of complexity acting as armor. This is a video about removing that armor without becoming naive. It is about something I'll call the Einstein Filter, the discipline of making an idea as simple as the truth allows, never simpler. The danger isn't that you are foolish. The danger is that you have learned to survive by sounding complicated. And complicated is safe until the bill arrives. Confusion postpones action. Ambiguity postpones accountability. You do not need more jargon. You need clarity without cowardice. Here is the trap. Our culture rewards spectacle more than substance. The fast path to credibility is not accuracy, it's opacity. If no one can check you, no one can challenge you. But every fog has a cost. The more mist you carry into your decisions, the more likely you are to walk in circles and call it nuance. Plato warned us about this long ago. Imagine the cave, people staring at shadows, arguing about shapes on the wall. The cave is not only a metaphor for ignorance, it's a warning about the seduction of complexity. Shadows are complicated, jagged outlines, shifting sizes, but they are still only projections. Simplicity, here, is not a childish shortcut. It is the decision to turn around, to face the fire and then the sun, even if your eyes ache. Simplicity burns first, then it illuminates. Nietzsche offers a second force. He who has a why can bear almost any how. Most of our complexity is an attempt to replace a weak why with 1,000 hows. We overbuild processes, phrases, strategies, because the center is hollow. When your why is real, it cuts. It discards. It says, this serves the purpose, that does not. The Einstein filter begins with the why. And Machiavelli? He reminds us that appearance matters, but warns that appearance without capacity collapses under stress. Many choose the performance of insight, the facial expressions of seriousness, the slides with impressive diagrams, the tone that says, trust me. But real virtue, the capacity to shape events, requires you to see the few levers that move the many parts. The Einstein filter doesn't make you look deep, it makes you useful. Bonhoeffer goes further, and here is the uncomfortable truth. He argued that stupidity can be more dangerous than malice because it is easier to recruit and harder to cure. You cure it not by humiliation, but by responsibility. The Einstein filter is a responsibility practice. It refuses the comfort of slogans and asks, what exactly do I mean? What precisely would prove this wrong? What would change my mind? When you do that in public, even just to yourself, you immunize against the contagious certainty of crowds. So how do you practice this filter without shrinking reality into a cartoon? First, distill the essence. State the idea in one sentence you would sign your name to. Not a teaser, not a cryptic remark. One sentence that a stranger could repeat and you would still own. If you cannot do this, you don't have an idea. You have a suspicion wrapped in performance. Second, draw the boundary. Say what your idea does not claim. Simplification without boundaries is propaganda. A statement that cannot be wrong cannot be right. If it depends is your reflex, fine, make the dependencies explicit. List the 2 or 3 conditions under which the idea holds. That boundary is your courage line. Third, test with inversion. Instead of hunting for proofs, become your own cross-examiner. Ask, if the opposite were true, what evidence would I expect? This is not negativity, it is intellectual self-respect. The Einstein filter prefers one strong, disconfirming fact to 20 comforting confirmations. Fourth, translate for a different audience. If your idea only makes sense in your specialized dialect, you don't understand it yet. Translation isn't dumbing down, it's clarifying the structure. If a thoughtful teenager, a non-expert colleague, or a skeptical friend cannot grasp the skeleton of your thought, you are likely clinging to muscle to hide the bones. Fifth, Reduce the handle, not the object. The world is complex. Your grip does not have to be. Find the smallest set of variables that predict the outcome you care about. In a crisis, that might be one metric. In a relationship, one recurring pattern. In a strategy, one decisive constraint. A good handle lets you move the thing. A bad handle only looks impressive while you drop it. Let's apply this to a quiet place in your life. A decision you keep postponing. You tell yourself you are gathering more information. That sounds responsible, but often, more information is a shield against the terror of commitment. What if you simplified the decision into a single, honest question? If nothing changes, will I be willing to live with this in 1 year? That is not simplistic. It is precise. It cuts through all the noise about timing, optics, and other people's opinions. You either accept the cost now or the cost later. The bill arrives either way. Or take your communication. You might be praised for eloquence while secretly weaponizing ambiguity. You say, "We should consider the multifaceted implications and adopt a flexible approach." It feels wise. It also means nothing. What if you replaced it with, "We will do it for 30 days. If X happens by day 10, we stop. If Y happens by day 20, we double down." That is simple. Not easy, simple. It invites accountability. It invites courage. There is a psychological reason we resist this. The brain's complexity bias tells us that we unconsciously prefer complicated explanations because they feel like work, and work feels like truth. But truth often arrives as subtraction. The sculptor does not add clay to reveal the statue. The sculptor removes marble. The Einstein filter is removal. You remove language that signals status but adds no meaning. You remove steps that delay feedback. You remove goals that satisfy the ego but starve the mission. A twist you may not expect. Simplicity will cost you status in certain rooms. Some will call you naive because you refuse the rituals of fog. Some will feel exposed because your clarity removes their cover. Let them. The aim is not to be admired for complexity, but to be trusted for consequence. The leaders who change trajectories, the thinkers whose ideas travel, the creators whose work endures, they are not simplistic. They are specific. Their sentences carry weight because they carry risk. Another twist, the Einstein filter is tender. It is not an axe you swing at everyone else's ideas. It is a mirror you hold to your own. When you simplify, you will discover that some of your most cherished notions survive, but smaller. That is not failure. That is fidelity. A promise kept to the truth, not to your pride. If you want a practice you can use today, here is a 3-step cadence. Step 1. Write the 60-second version. Speak your idea out loud for 1 minute, as if explaining it to someone you respect who has no context. No metaphors, no hedging. Record it. Listen back. Does it rely on buzzwords? Did you make any claims you cannot test? Rewrite until a stranger could summarize it in 12 words. Step 2. Construct the falsifier. Name the observation that would force you to update your belief. Not vaguely, specifically. If we do this for 2 weeks and retention does not move by X%, we switch. If this conversation repeats for a 3rd time with the same outcome, we change the boundary. Make the falsifier public, even if the public is just you in a calendar reminder. Step 3. Draw the map on 1 page. Not a garden of boxes and arrows. 3 boxes. Inputs, process, outcome. Label the few variables that matter for each. If you cannot fit the map on 1 page, you do not have a map. You have a maze. Mazes are for tourists. Maps are for travelers. Now let's connect this to courage. Simplicity is not merely an intellectual technique. It is a moral choice. Bonhoeffer's warning returns here. When crowds gather around slogans, when the air gets thick with phrases that feel good but don't guide action, the ethical move is to ask the simplest question that restores responsibility. Who is accountable for what, by when? This question is not a cudgel. It is a lantern. It pierces the fog without humiliating people. It invites them back to agency. Consider conflict. Many avoid it by complicating it. It's layered. You say, which might be true, but often what you mean is, I don't want to be disliked. The Einstein filter turns the fear around. You ask, What is the cleanest boundary that protects dignity on both sides? You are not reducing a complex human moment to a formula. You are refusing to drown in narratives that excuse you from the sentence you need to say. I can't agree to that. Simple, brave, liberating. And what about creativity? There is a myth that complexity equals originality. In truth, the most generative constraint is a simple rule that forces invention. Choose a narrow question worth answering, and deep originality follows. Choose a sprawling question designed to impress, and you'll generate ornament, not insight. The Einstein filter is not the death of creativity, it is the birth canal. One last paradox. The longer you practice simplicity, the more complexity you can responsibly carry. The point is not to avoid difficulty. The point is to build a mind that can hold difficulty without losing the line. You become the person in the room who can say, calmly, amid all this, the decision hinges on these two assumptions. People exhale, not because you made the world smaller, but because you made it navigable. As we close, return to the question that tightened your throat at the beginning. The thing that matters in your life right now, your next move, your values, your plan. Could you say it in 3 sentences? Try now. What is it? Why now? What will prove it? If you cannot answer, that is not a verdict, it is a starting line. Turn toward the light of your own thought. Strip away the cleverness that has been protecting you from responsibility. Cut until the truth hums. Then, and only then, add what the truth requires to be whole. That is simplicity without betrayal. Clarity will not save you from risk. It will do something better. It will make your risks honest. And there is a strange peace that follows. The quiet you feel when the sentence is finally clean enough to say out loud and brave enough to live. When the fog returns, and it will, remember this rule you can carry in your pocket. Make it as simple as the truth allows, never simpler. Then walk.